Hello, I'm Tom Bleach, and today the Power 50 is at Pay360, and I'm joined by Scott from DECTA. Scott, thank you very much for joining us. So I think the best way to kick us off, just give the audience a little quick introduction into yourself and what it is DECTA does, please.
Hello, my name is Scott Dawson. I'm the CEO of DECTA Limited, the UK organization within the DECTA Group. We are a proper end-to-end payment solution providing a wide array of payment services from issuing to acquiring to a digital banking platform, a white label gateway and such, all designed to help banks, merchants and fintechs optimize and localize their payment solutions.
Fantastic. Well, as I said, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here. And as I said, we're at Pay360. We're kind of surrounded by the hustle and bustle of it right now on the back end of day two. So how have you found the event? What has been going on? And how do you think it's grown since last year?
It's fantastic as per norm. Saying that it's bigger and busier seems like a little bit of a cop-out, a little bit too easy, although it certainly is. But what I've really noticed isn't just that the show feels bigger and busier, but it feels like the investment in the show has become a little bit more significant. There's bigger, fancier stands. There's just a certain aesthetic that seems to be improving each year. It really feels like this is becoming a flagship show.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's been a great event so far. We've had some great insights. We've been visiting some of the panels, talking to a few people around, and there's just so much insight going on. And as you said, compared to last year, it's just grown even more. And year on year, it just seems to get a little bit bigger and bigger and a little bit more impressive. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues and gets even bigger next year. Now, obviously, you're joining us. You're a Fintech Power 50 member, but you're also now a Payments Power 50 member, which the first ever Payments Power 50. So that's fantastic news. So congratulations for that, first and foremost.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to delve into what other kind of developments have been going on with DECTA. What's been going on in the last 6 months? What can you share with us?
So, when we spoke in 2023, I said it was about growth. When we spoke in 2024, I said it was about optimization. This year, what we're taking all of these elements that have been working for us over the last few years, particularly in the UK, and we're putting them into action. I really want, and we have made 2025 in many respects the year of the SME. According to last year's government, 2024 was the year of the SME, but it didn't go particularly well. And I think there's still a lot of small businesses out there that make up, I think, something along the lines of 61% of employment comes from SMEs. 4.5 trillion in annual turnover comes from SMEs. And yet these businesses are still being undersupported. And so not just with our acquiring services, but particularly with our acquiring services, I really want to be reaching out and supporting these businesses grow. I want to ensure not only that they have good consumer solutions, but good solutions that will help those businesses themselves become more active. And that includes things like better payment methodologies, better costings. Of course, that's always a bit of a given, but also things like corporate funding, which is an area we're looking into. And we should have some really exciting solutions for that in the very near future, because that's an area where we've seen there's been a really big gap recently.
Absolutely. And as we all know, SMEs are the lifeblood of the economy. That they bring in so much, and that's what the economy revolves around, to these SMEs. How much of a challenge is that, getting the SMEs the support they need?
I think a lot of the time, the challenge is twofold. Firstly, you need to have those solutions in place and they need to be effective. But secondly, and almost more importantly, people need to be aware that they exist. So while I'm confident we have the infrastructure, I think right now the challenge is really just getting our brand out there so these SMEs know that we are there to support them, that is our appetite, and we want to be the payment solution provider that's there to help them grow.
Fantastic. And one of the topics that's been coming up a lot, obviously we're at Pay360, a lot of conversations regarding payments are going on. And something that people have been talking about a lot is the payment outages. We've seen outages from the likes of Barclays and Lloyds going on recently. It's been a real conversation starter regarding resilience. So, what do you think regarding resilience is the way forward? How do we address these issues and create a more resilient future?
Resilience is such an important topic that normally doesn't get talked about unless something goes wrong. We all really like to talk about innovation because innovation is exciting and it leads to such interesting conversations. But I think the fundament to good innovation is making sure that what you're creating is resilient. And right here, right now, I'm actually getting tired. I'm getting frustrated talking about it because these outages do seem to be happening on a more regular basis. I mean, for instance, as a fintech firm, we invest a lot of money and resource into ensuring that our resilience, I mean, we have a 99.99% uptime. That should be an industry standard. That shouldn't be exceptional. And I think what we're seeing, particularly with more traditional financial services like our high street banks, is, I don't want to call it an apathy, but maybe a resting on laurels in terms of the technology that they use, because they're taking legacy systems and building upon them that don't tend to be particularly innovative, particularly fit for purpose, particularly ready for the modern world. And you'll see a lot of those shortcomings at the moment aren't happening to the people in this room. It isn't the payment providers, it isn't the fintechs, but it's the legacy banks. And my concern in seeing that is, firstly, it penalizes the individual, it penalizes the SMEs, it has a drastic effect on an economy that's already struggling at this point in time. But I think conceptually, if you take a step back, to kind of put it in modern terms, it's violating our financial safe space. Not everyone loves their bank. I don't even think people always like their bank, but they're an institution we can depend on to be there to, at the very least, hold our funds. When you can't do that anymore, there is a point of concern and a conversation that needs to be had quite quickly, quite drastically, and quite severely, because the consequence of not having that safe space, not being able to access your own money, is severe and, to be completely candid, unacceptable.
Absolutely. And obviously, that's a discussion that's been happening a lot throughout the 2 days at Pay360. And something else you've heard a lot about that you kind of alluded to there is a balance between innovation and ensuring this resilience. And in the same breath, we've heard people talking about deregulation, especially in the US, but also sort of hints towards that in the UK. I think, obviously, you're a global payments company. You are aware of the real fragmentation between different jurisdictions in terms of regulation globally. What kind of the way forwards do you think when we're thinking about, who's leading the way in terms of payments regulation, or maybe who's lagging behind?
The conversation breaks my heart a little bit, because I think, generally speaking, the UK has been on the forefront of regulation within financial services. And I don't know if that's how we're perceived anymore. And I certainly hope we don't use the behavior and the actions of other jurisdictions at this point in time to dictate what we do here. I think one of the big challenges we have is people tend to conflate bureaucracy with regulation. Bureaucracy and regulation are not the same thing. And in fact, good regulation shouldn't be bureaucratic. It should be implementing effective, efficient rules that protect the marketplace, but also help businesses grow.
Absolutely. And I think the only place we can go from that is looking into the future. And I'd really like to delve more into DECTA specifically, and exactly what kind of future plans you've got going on. Are there any exciting developments or plans in the pipeline that you can share with us now?
So a lot of our development at the moment, from an acquiring perspective, is just about localizing our offering so it really does support SMEs. Some of those developments I've already alluded to. And then from a step back, bearing in mind, we are not an acquiring business, we're a fintech technology business. We have a great white label gateway. We do technical processing, issuing. We have Digibank, which is a digital banking platform. All of these products are constantly a work in progress that are being optimized and designed not to support just businesses in the United Kingdom, but businesses on a global basis.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a really insightful chat, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Pay360.
Thank you very much, Tom.